What's up, everybody? Live. It's me. It's your boy. It's me. It is PLD.
And I am Richard Eric Jarvi. Welcome to Class Action, the classiest show on the interwebs. And this week, it's actually true.
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
I think it's true this time.
Buck, you can't blame PLD. We actually went live on time. So this is not PLD's fault this time, actually. See? And this should actually go to show anybody who watches Call to Action. It's not PLD's fault because I'm live on time, just so we know. But anyway.
I just keep you on track here.
You do. It's Jarvi that does it. He's a taskmaster behind the scenes. You have no idea.
I wish.
I'm like hosting the show here at the beginning, but he's like behind the scenes telling me exactly what to do. He's like, I'm like a puppet. There you go. Strings, right? Well, anyway, welcome to Class Action. This is actually a first for us. We've done a couple episodes of Class Action live before with Rachel Silvestrini. PJ Campbell did one. We did one with Mark Riley. We did one with Ben Bateman. But all of those episodes we did, we just we did it in a different format. We did a ranking episode. We ranked the View Askew universe. Can't talk. We ranked with Ben Bateman, we ranked a ton of Tony Scott films. And then, of course, we did with Mark Riley, we did the live action Supermans. But this is the first
We
time.
also had Eddie Green on for Pelham 123 versus Unstoppable.
But that wasn't live, though. That was still.
No, that wasn't live. But that was the first time that we did the format with a guest.
Oh, yes, that's what you mean. Yeah, this is our first time we're doing a live show with our original format. So if you've ever watched us live before, never watched us before, our studio recording versions that we usually do on Saturdays, this is going to be a new experience for you. This is actually what Class Action is. And this time, we have a guest on as well, a great guest. A friend of Action Industry, is a friend of myself, a friend of Richard Eric Jarvi. Of course, outside the Schmodown, we're good friends. Inside, we're bitter enemies right now. But that's okay. We love him. The first guy I actually ever met in the Schmodown universe, Brandon Hanna, my friend. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. What are you up to tonight?
Oh, just figured I'd stop by, talk some Star Trek and Star Wars. Star Wars, my original love. Star Trek, my newfound love. So it's going to be very difficult to try to pick between the two in some of these categories. But we'll see.
It is quite the debate. I mean, just even before tonight, Star Trek versus Star Wars, Trekkies versus Warheads. It's always been the thing. I have been one like Brandon, who's actually been kind of one who likes both. And I think, Richard, you are too at this point with the new ones, at least.
Yeah, exactly. I think we just talked about it before. If I have to think about like which movie is the better one just as a whole, I think I might actually say it's 2009, even though I love Star Wars way more.
It's a dichotomy.
It's weird. It's a weird relationship between them for sure.
It is kind of strange to me. I mean, Brandon, you can speak on this as well. Star Wars seems to have more of like a collective feel to it. Like you watch Star Wars, it's not even about the movie; it's about the universe created. Whereas Star Trek seems to go movie per movie, at least for me. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do understand that. Like Star Wars, it's like even if you're watching The Phantom Menace, which is like a lot of people's least favorite, along with Attack of the Clones. But just to be in that world and just to be like with those characters, it makes it all okay. I don't know how to describe it. Although ironically enough, if I had to pick which universe I'd rather live in, I think I'd go with Trek. Just because even though there is complication with the Klingons and the Romulans and other civilizations later on, depending on how far into the lore you go, Star Trek is all about intergalactic peace and different alien species and civilizations living under one collective banner, just trying to get along and be better. And for, at least a certain amount of time, they do have peace. So it's a lot better than being in a constant Star War. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well said.
Well said. And also,
you think of like Star Wars, you don't think it means Star Wars. It's like a word that is almost, has its own meaning now. It's actually a war. You don't think about it like that.
You don't want
Makes it more entertaining to watch, but less entertaining to be a part of.
Very true. I like that. Well, all right. Before we just already been talking about it before we announced it, I'll throw those posters up there. You know how we at Class Action love our alternate posters. We are talking about Star Trek 2009, the original of the new saga. Look at that poster. Look at that. I love these.
That's such a cool shot from the film too.
Yes,
it is.
In the trailer, and specifically, I know we love trailers here at Action Industries. That's such a great one.
Oh man, it does so much. Just shows Kirk's character right there, where he is that farm boy, but he's looking up at the stars in a way. It's not unlike a certain other character in Star Wars. Okay. The alternate poster, we got The Force Awakens. I know episode 7 isn't quite they don't like to use the episode 7, 8, 9 as much anymore as far as the marketing, but I've always loved seeing that as a collective to the story still. And it's a busy poster, but look at all that artwork on there. I like that as well.
I think this might even be better.
Yeah. It's like you say about simplicity versus the busyness factor, but that's something. So, well, before we continue, I just want to say, because we are live, we do have the super chat function. We do have the streamlabs.com/action-industries if you want to get questions read. We'll break them out during our debates and our discussions at any time. Before we go into our categories, which is actually, you know what? Fun thing I forgot to do already, I should talk about what Class Action do. We take those two movies. We take Trek and Star Wars this week. We put them up against each other in 5 custom-made categories that we've come up with. And we have them duke it out until we decide who is the victor. And I'm telling you this, every time I do the show, Richard and Jarvi and I both will say, it very rarely comes out exactly the way we think it's going to. Are
you prepared, though?
I'm trying to get prepared because I'm still heartbroken. I'll run a little bit audible here. I'm heartbroken where 2 weeks ago we had Mission Impossible 3 versus Mission Impossible Fallout. And in the villain category, someone picked Henry Cavill over Philip Seymour Hoffman. And to me, that's unforgivable. I'm still heartbroken about that. Jarvi is full of hot takes. I'm not gonna lie, but that's why I like having him on the show. So I'll have to
do that to PSH.
Right. Exactly. Right. You can't die PSH. You of all people, Jarvi, should understand that. You're born and bred action and movie anatomy. You know how PSH is. And yet he's going to sit there and not say anything and just nod. And
go listen to the argument. That's all I have to say.
All right. Well, before any further ado, before we get to the categories, there are a couple of games we do like to play. Get us in there. One of my favorite ones of all time, of course, as you all know, is what would Ed Harris play? My favorite actor of all time. Jarvi likes him as well. I think Brandon is a fan as well. I like to say that he makes every movie better. He never sells out on a performance. He always goes all in. And what we do in this is we take the movies we're watching and we either recast a role with Ed Harris, or we write a new role for him and how he makes in order for him to make the film better, even if it's a great film like both of these are. So without further ado, I'll start with Jarvi this week. We'll let Brandon warm into it and ease into his role casting. Richard, what do you have for him in Star Trek?
So I did both. I created one new role for him and I recast him. So I'll start off with Star Trek. Okay. So I was thinking long and hard. First, I wanted to do the Bruce Greenwood character, of course. But I was thinking, since we have Leonard Nimoy as Old Spock, I would have James Kirk from the Old Spock era and have Ed Harris as James Kirk somehow in the movie.
Wow. Wow, so you're recasting William Shatner?
Yeah, it needs to be. Yeah, well, yeah. Really, I am. I think if anyone, it's Ed Harris. You know, I didn't even think about how much I would anger the fans by actually recast him. But
and here we go with Richard Archer.
I'm trying to keep my cool right now.
9 minutes that lasted. 9 minutes.
It's not me having the moment. It's actually Brandon. Actually, I'm a little offended by that too. But it is your choice. Okay, all right. I could see it. I guess I'll try to see it. Brandon Buckingham saying Captain Pike and Laura Santeca. Those are good choices as well. Do you want to do? Why don't we have Brandon do his Star Trek, and we'll come back around for Star Wars.
Sure.
Okay, yeah, Star Trek. I'm really confident in my Star Wars one, but Star Trek, I think I was like still bouncing around between a few, even as we've gone live. Oh man, I'm gonna say him as Nero. I think would be really menacing. Like I think. And maybe you change the character a bit. Maybe he's part of the old Romulan council, that we see in Star Trek Nemesis for a bit before they all get wiped out. Yeah. Spoilers. It's in the beginning of the movie, and no one ever's gonna watch it because it's one of the worst
Star Trek films.
But yeah, I think come on, Ed Harris as the villain in the movie. you can't go wrong.
You're right. You can never go wrong. In fact, that's actually I was doing the same thing.
Oh.
I kind of had gone back and forth. I kind of was like, he could do Pike. I could see him doing Pike. I could see him being that mentor character as well. But at the end of the day, I love it when he's mean. I love it when he's villainous. I love it when he's got the command. And him as Nero, I think that's the perfect character for him. I could see him wiping the floor with Chris Pine. If that's the problem, is the villain would win. That's the only problem in my Star Trek.
The villain would win.
Yeah, because Eric Bana, he's way younger, obviously, and he has that sort of, he's just there for revenge, and he feels like he's so blinded by it. With Ed Harris, you feel like the character would have to be, padded up more, give him more reason for that revenge, because he just seems like, yeah, exactly like Spock said, he's a very particularly troubled Romulan. You shouldn't go like all out war when an accident happens.
There's Kaiser calling out exactly what Jarvi actually called out before we went live. We're all matching. This was not planned, but I like
Brandon, where's your cap?
I didn't get the memo, guys.
No, his hair is too good. His hair is too good right now.
Yeah, it is. I like it. I like it. But yeah, no, I think the more that I think about it, Ed Harris as Nero changed the character a bit, because right now, like, we have Eric Bana playing like a younger, more hot-headed Romulan,
exactly.
An older, wiser, more experienced Romulan who's calm, cool, collected, very menacing, but in a kind of subdued way.
Right? Yes.
That would scare the crap out of me if I were Captain Kirk.
I got those steely eye blues in the back and behind the prosthetics a little bit. Oh, that'd be great. That would be so good. So,
and it's someone that can be menacing to Spock too.
Yes,
which I think is important as well.
Very much so. Very much so.
Because there's not much that phases Spock.
No.
If you get a villain that makes Spock do like a double take, like I think you got something there.
You got a great villain there. That's cool. I like that. So, all right, that's good. That's good. I like to see that. Anybody else in the chat? Is anybody for Star Trek? Let us know. Richard, let's go on to Star Wars for you. I actually like my Star Wars one. So
wait, what was your Star Trek, Paul?
My Star Trek was Nero as well. I actually chose Nero.
Oh, okay. So
I was agreeing with Brandon.
Okay. So my Star Wars, this is a recast, and I would, as much as I love Donald Gleason, I don't think Hux was the right choice for him. I was like so excited when I heard that he was cast in the new Star Wars, and I was hoping he would be like a Jedi character or someone. I feel like Hux with Ed Harris would have way more gravitas and sort of get rid of the cartoonishness. Yeah. So I think we pretty much had what was the character's name? Come on, Brendan, you know this. In the third sequel trilogy, the
Legion General Pride.
Yeah, that's one. Someone like that, because I feel like Hux was kind of took the seriousness out of the Force Awakens and the Last Jedi.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I think Ed Harris would have made the character way more serious and more believable, because that was like I think one of the weakest parts. And I do love Donald Gleason, I'll say again, but I don't think that was the right cast for him.
I get that. I can get that. I like some of it. Like, I mean, part of it is that I actually like his version of like he's the child that wants to be bigger than he is. Like, he wants to be this badass, and he's trying to be this badass, but at heart,
but that's Kylo already.
You're not wrong, but that's why it's under the Snoke grandfather kind of thing, or Snoke father kind of. But it's the two warring not twins, but like brothers almost in a way, both trying to do the same thing. But I take it. I actually would like to have seen Ed Harris do that, because he would have made a hell of a speech.
Exactly. Just imagine like Ed Harris giving that speech, the Star Killer base speech.
Right? And you're absolutely right. He would have been a great General Pride. That's very true. So, all right, Brandon, what do you have for Star Wars?
So I was actually also going to pick Hux, but now that Jarvi has as well, I think I've thought of something even better to maybe one-up him. I don't know. This could be a disaster, but I'm going to actually create a new role for the movie. Ed Harris, but as Hux's father, who was a significant part of the Empire during its demise. Right. And what if in the film there's a scene where Hux kills his own father to then take on that position of like top officer or whatever, right. Top general in the First Order military. And then that way his story can kind of mirror Kylo Ren's story throughout the trilogy as well. We have both of them kind of on a similar journey because it's like poetry, it rhymes. So that's
there's a lot of father killing.
It is Star Wars unless you're killing your daddy.
Yeah, it's not Star Wars if you're not killing your dad, right?
All right. I like that too. I think that's great. Actually, something I actually did consider that for a little bit. Brenthal, I think it's Brenthal Flex would have been really cool to see. But I went somewhere different, a little bit against grain. I didn't create a new character, but I did put him to a character that actually wasn't seen on screen. He was just named. I would have Ed Harris in more of a cameo role, small role, as Duquesne.
Okay.
And
right. Yeah.
He's the guy who stole the Millennium Falcon and I would add him to that sequence on the ship where you have all different clubs, the Conja Club, the Mark Ellis, basically, and the guys from the raid basically come on. And then Ed Harris could have been the third. You actually could have been like the last one in as Duquesne, and you find out that Duquesne is like this former Imperial general, kind of, not maybe general, but high-ranking kind of guy who has gone rogue now after the Empire fell down. He became like a smuggler, a ship thief afterwards, trying to, maybe he's a wannabe warlord even, but he's the one. He kind of comes on. He can be very intimidating in that. I think it'd be kind of fun to have that as a character with Han Solo, Harrison Ford versus Ed Harris in a way, verbally sparring back and forth. That could have been a lot of fun for me too. So that's where I'm going to go. Duquesne. What the hell? It's a little off kilter, but I like it. So
I think Brandon's was better.
Brandon wins. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. You guys in the chat, you can tell us who you think won on both sides. If you won, I'll let you guys know.
I mean, I also kind of pitched some plot points about his story mirroring Kylo Ren. And then what if when you get to the third movie, one of them gets redeemed and one of them doesn't? They make choices. I kind of like that.
That's good. I like that too. We do have a stream lab. I'll throw it up there. Alan Smithy. Love General Alan Smithy. Director. Hey, PLD, Jarvi, and Brandon, let's make sure tonight's Star Debate is clean and fair, and let's also make sure Star Wars wins. Spock is cool, but Star Wars has Chewbacca, Rathtars, lightsabers, and Kylo Ren way better than Eric Bana in goofy makeup.
Well, I don't know if you want to use Rathtars as a defense.
That's kind of like that. I think I will see Bibbs would Bibiani would love that as the goofiest part of it, like that goofy part of it. That still is almost like a pulpy kind of thing, but you're not wrong. It's not. It's another one I would choose to defend it. But Alan, if that's what you like, that's what you like. So more power to you, and thank you for the donations. So, all right, let's moving on past Ed Harris. So Jerry Morris doesn't have a heart attack in there because he doesn't want to talk about Ed Harris anymore. He's always my enemy. That's okay. I love Jerry anyway. Go on to the next segment, which Jarvi, why don't you introduce? I know you love talking about this.
The Public Defender is our next bit. This is what we started calling the off-the-cuff list. Now, public defenders usually in movies are overworked, underpaid. They are crushed down by the system. We have nothing against public defenders. But in this case, we figured, who do we relate to when we're doing the off the cuff? Because we have a guest or someone who's not on the show come up with a list that we have no idea what it's about. Just give us a top 6 list, and me and Paul will have to come up with options for it on the spot, off the cuff. So since we started off as like a legal pun kind of a show, we figured why not just go with it, and it's hasn't evolved anywhere, but we're still doing it. It's
kind of stuck. We haven't talked about it as much as a legal thing, but that when we began, it was all class action, class action, judging things, and we had to come up with a public defender was our get, and yet here we are. Still not sticking to it, but we are sticking to that name because I like making Jarvi uncomfortable. We love public defenders in reality. Just happened to fit what we were going for.
I might need one day.
At this point, especially if you keep making hot things like PSH. John Lestrada, $2 super chat. I'll answer that now. Oscar Isaac or Carl Urban, both the true stars. I do have to say
we're going to get into that one.
We will get into something about that, I believe. If we don't answer it fully, John, later on to your happiness, let us know, and we'll go further into it later on at that point. But let's see. So let's get into public defender then. I think Brandon has prepared something. This is the moment where Jarvi and I panic because, at the end of the day, we're going to look like idiots.
Yes, sir.
Well, the guest actually will look smart, and I guess it's good for the guest, right? It's always good to make the guest feel good, right? So without further ado, hit it with us, Brandon. Let us know what we're answering.
This is supposed to make me look smart. Oh God, I don't know if that's gonna happen. Um, so I thought it would be fun to ask you guys the question: who is the better? We'll call it starship captain. Is it Han Solo or is it James Tiberius Kirk? Which one's the better? I want you guys to consider like personality traits, like piloting ability, tactics involved, not just in like war, but just in managing people. Like, who do you think overall is the best captain?
I think I can answer this pretty fast, and I think it's Kirk. And hear me out. I think he's in charge of an entire ship that is like, there's like hundreds of people who are under his command. Han Solo, sure, he commands the fleet when they're doing, the trench. Oh no, he's not. In A New Hope, he just shows up, right? So he's in charge of his own crew, a very small part of the crew. Kirk pretty much sacrifices himself. He dies into darkness for his crew. So he has, I think when it's just who's the better captain, I think it's Kirk. I think Han Solo is way more like a rogue, smuggler.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I don't know if I can agree with that too. First of all, better captain of what? Depends on what you're talking about. And again, there's the captain of Starfleet, but captain of the Millennium Falcon is just as important. It's a different kind of captain. And who's a better starship captain? In that case, it'd be Han Solo. Han Solo can pilot the thing himself. He can take orders. He doesn't need to give it. He doesn't need to. He gives orders as well. And Chewbacca, he's got a first mate he can count on more than anybody else. I think Han Solo has a lot of. He's got a lot of luck that Kirk doesn't even have. Kirk gets into. How do I phrase this?
I'd say Kirk is. They're very similar in.
They do have a lot of
in those ways. Yeah.
But Han Solo will. I think Han Solo will do more what needs to be done, even if it's dirtier, than Kirk would. Kirk goes dirty because he has Spock holding him back. I think Han Solo, you already said that Han Solo's, at the end of the day, James Kirk is a good guy. He's a good guy. Han Solo is always more of a neutral guy with a heart of gold, but he's not afraid to get down and dirty as far as that goes. I think Kirk, not to say that Kirk is afraid to, but at a deeper level, Han's more going to be willing to do anything it takes. Han Solo comes from a background where he is poor. He has to scratch to survive. Kirk's he's a high class, baby, spoiled baby at sometimes. To be honest with you, I mean, I love Kirk, but he's comparatively. Han Solo has had to work harder to get to where he is.
But you're talking about character. We're talking about captain here. If we have to go like Han Solo or Kirk, I would go Solo, no question. But I'm trying to be honest. We're going down the same road. You're just blindly saying Star Wars because you think Han Solo is a better character, but who's the better captain?
Who do I want leading up a mission to save the day? Is that kind of what you want? Is that kind of what you're saying?
As a captain.
Captain. He's also general of the New Republic Army and the Resistance and the Return of the Jedi. He led the Battle of Endor.
So you're on board the Millennium Falcon as, I don't know, a technician. They don't really show them, but they do in the... Why am I blanking on the last Star Wars? Jesus, it's very early in the morning for me. The Rise of Skywalker. Jesus, it's like 7 a.m. There's like a few more alien characters on board, some technicians, whatnot. And you're on the USS Enterprise. I think you'd feel safer on the Enterprise because you feel like Kirk's going to do anything in his power to save you. I feel like the Millennium Falcon, he's just going to pull some stunt and, detach and just blow his ship into something. He would never do that to the Millennium Falcon. But, as the mentality that he has, I feel like you wouldn't be safe on the Millennium Falcon, but you'd be safer because Kirk dies for his crew. He actually dies. He radiates himself. He dies for his crew.
Han doesn't have to. But Han, he gets away from it. He gets away from it and doesn't need to sacrifice himself. I'm just saying, I don't know. Just throw it up there now. I don't know, Bray, what do you have to say about this? Since you throw it at us, let's try to throw it back to you with your preparation.
It's very difficult. I mean, as Jarvi said, Kirk is better at leading like hundreds of people, right? He knows how to delegate responsibilities very well. And he's not afraid to, jump in the trenches first. He's not afraid to get down and dirty. When there's a mission that involves someone, leaving the ship to go somewhere dangerous, he volunteers himself. but he doesn't actually pilot this ship. That there's a team of people that are piloting the ship, where Han Solo he could fly that thing himself. He's got Chewbacca there as a co-pilot, but even if he didn't, he could manage. Was one of the best pilots in the galaxy, like maybe second to Anakin Skywalker, probably. Yeah. Let's be honest. Right. So it's tough. Both have had people die under them just because of the classic Star Trek red shirt situation. Kirk's had more people die under him, probably, including his own son in one of the films. But at the same time, no matter what situation Kirk is in, even if there is loss, he always finds a way to come out on top. He always finds a way to Kobayashi Maru whatever situation he's in, because he doesn't believe in the no-win scenario.
No, he doesn't. No, sir.
So I think I gotta give it to Kirk, maybe by like a hair. Who knows? Maybe comparing Kirk to Admiral Akbar would be a more fair comparison, because a starship is in Star Trek is probably more comparable to a Mon Calamari starship. So I don't know. Maybe some of it's apples and oranges. Maybe some of it's fair. But these are two iconic characters, like nitty gritty, dirty, scruffy looking nerf herders in the galaxy, trying to make their way and save the day at the same time. So I thought it was open season, fair game.
It is fair game, but it's a lot of fun to think about it. I don't know if we can come to the right answer, but I love the question. I love going with it. Jeremy Morris actually says it as well as I could. Sometimes Han is smarter than Kirk because Kirk relies on the crew, whereas Han just has to rely on basically himself. So I think Han has a little more practice with being in that. I guess that's kind of what I was trying to say with the down and dirty as much of it, because he gets down and dirty with it because he's involved in every aspect of it, where Kirk can kind of go, Spock, do this, or Uhura, do this, do this, and do what you need to do, and he relies on Scotty coming through with stuff. Han's doing it all himself. He's fixing the Falcon and flying away from the ship. and flying away from the
He always has Chewbacca, and just like Kirk always has Spock. So
that is true. And it does have Luke and Leia at times, depending on who you're with. But I'm going to lean towards Han still. But
Han can repair the ship himself.
That's right.
Kirk needs Scotty.
Definitely. That's when the ship is broken down, you want Han, definitely. Because Han's going to get that thing fixed and moving on to Cloud City before you can say boo. Whereas Kirk's like,
but we're not asking who's the better technician. We're asking who's the better captain.
If my captain can fix the ship, he knows the ship better than he knows the ship.
He doesn't need to.
That's what I'm
Captain.
saying.
But here's another one. How many times has the USS Enterprise been destroyed? How many times has the Millennium Falcon been destroyed?
Yep, you're onto something there.
And now I'm imagining Admiral Akbar yelling, God, it's a trap, God. I love it. Okay. All right. We'll end it there. I don't have either one. They both are great characters. They're both great captains. It's a great talk. You can come back and forth with it. I know everybody, some people are saying Han, some people are saying Kirk, and that's fine by me because we love both of them. But that's where we're going for now. I think we should get into the next section, which is our categories. But just before that, we're going to give our snap judgment. Now, what snap judgment is we came up with this kind of recently, I think, last month or so. And because what I was talking about before, where the categories tend to freak us out a little bit in terms of, like, by the end of the day, we think something completely different, or we answer something completely different than we initially thought. So before we go into the categories, we're each going to give our own snap judgment on what we think is going to be the winner. We say Star Wars Force Awakens versus Star Trek 2009. Which one do we think is going to win before, and then we can find out if we're right afterwards or not. And the winner just gets to have been right. That's it. There's no prize. It's all a prize. So without any further ado, Richard, what is your snap judgment? Who wins, Star Trek 2009 or Star Wars The Force Awakens?
Star Wars The Force Awakens.
That's your vote. Okay. Yeah. Brandon?
I think it's going to be Force Awakens. I think there's probably just a little bit too much bias on this panel, just inherently. Yeah. But we'll see. I think when you really break it down, there's a lot to be considered with Star Trek, but I'm going to go Star Wars.
I think I too will go Star Wars as well. And I think, and I'd say it kind of comes to what I was talking to Brandon about before. It kind of feels like there's something mad. I mean, maybe it is biased, but it feels like there's something magical about you say the word Star Wars and it just gets that warmth in your heart. And that might be enough to overtake anything else. I don't know. We're going to find out. I do love Star Trek. I love Star Trek 09. So we're gonna have to see what happens here.
Yeah, the chat can play along. Say what your snap judgment is, which will win.
Yes, Drew saying Star Trek 2009 wins.
Mm-hmm.
So the question work? I don't know. Find
Jeremiah
out.
says TFA.
And Jeremiah says TFA for the win. I've had a couple of people before when we came in and we actually first started. We had some people already. Zach from General Action Army says TFA by a mile.
Oh, well, that's a little much.
I would agree that that's actually a little much myself. We actually had someone before. I think the chat actually has gone too far. That we had somebody in here. It's gone. Sometimes you leave a comment in the chat like hours before it starts, then it goes away. They actually too said TFA by a mile. I don't remember who it was now though. But Liam Gilpin, another General in the Action Army, saying 09.
09.
Okay.
Wow.
Interesting. Yeah,
I've lost the general debate to Liam Gilpin, so maybe he's onto something.
He is. He's actually become the biggest heel in the general debate. He's as big a heel as Andrew Guy ever was. So
Jake Yachts.
There's Jake Yachts. Because Jake, this isn't a Schmodown show, and in real life we're good friends. So just don't let everybody else know that in the Schmodown. That's all.
Yeah, this isn't real. None of this. It's not even really here.
Just pretend. And John,
we're all friends here.
We are. We're all friends. So. All right.
Just pay no attention to the hit list right up here. Pay no attention to that.
No, you ruined it now.
This is my little Schmodown like a museum, if you will. Yeah.
You got to keep that. It's going to go into the Schmodown Hall of Fame, the museum.
One day, maybe.
After you win the IG title that next year, maybe that's what's going to happen. I have to put that hit list in and get it like emblazoned and framed and everything else. So
I believe it. We'll have it dipped in gold.
I like that. I like where your head's at. All right. Well, our 5 categories, I'll break them down first, and then I'll just list them first, and then we'll go back and break them down. So the chat can start thinking about what they would have to say. Our 5 categories are going to be the best opening sequences, a better big 3. It's obviously big 3 from Star Trek. Actually, we could allow a bit of fluidity in this. Initially, I said Kirk, Spock, and Bones. Jarvi said maybe Uhura was a more important big 3 character potentially, and I think if you want to argue it, that's fine. But then you got Star Wars. Obviously, you got Rey, Finn, and Poe are the big 3 in The Force Awakens. Category number 3 is going to be better villain. Nero versus Kylo Ren. Of course, you can mention Snoke and Hux or anybody else you want, or Nero's sidekick there. I can't remember his name. You probably know that, being the IG guy. Nero's sidekick name is like he's played by the actor. He's in a lot of movies, but I can't remember.
Don't embarrass me, Paul. I don't know.
We'll move on. We're gonna move on. You're studying next year. You're taking a break. It's fine. Better score, better music, and 5 better tie-in with the original IP. And that's going to be an interesting category for me, I think. There's a lot to talk about in there.
Yeah.
But we'll start off with the original. Let's go back to better opening sequences. Now, I got to tell you, Jarvi was chomping at the bit. When initially we were saying better opening versus maybe better final battle, he's like, I want to talk about the opening. I really want to get into the opening. So I said, okay, Jarvi, the taskmaster. You're really in charge of the show. I'll let you do what you got to do. You're the master. Go ahead. So tell me, Jarvi, what is it about the opening sequences? And tell me what you love about it.
I felt like there's no way that we can't not talk about the Star Trek opening. I mean, Chris Hemsworth as Papa Kirk, and the whole entire, like, him being in charge of the spaceship as it goes down. I feel like it's one of the better movie openings ever. Truly, like very, very, very JJ Abrams. Like, because if you think about The Force Awakens, like both these movies, they show in their openings, they show the full power of the the evil or the dark side. Both like introduce the villain, both introduce the minions, for lack of a better word. But I remember sitting in the cinema for The Force Awakens. There was something so special and magical about it, like having a Star Wars movie after how many years, like 17 years or something like that, and it felt super special and magical. But I cannot shake how Star Trek like blew Chris Hemsworth into the scene, how it gave that movie so much heart. We have we have what's her face, Jim Morrison from
Yes,
Jenna,
from Morrison.
from Warrior. Yeah,
Warrior, that's
her
Warrior,
favorite
that's-
movie wife ever.
Oh,
And also the captain. Now this is where Brandon probably knows the name. The captain who goes down, who says like, "Kirk, you're in charge."
Yeah, I don't remember his name.
Yeah, but he's an actor you pretty much recognize when you see him. He's always playing this like
he's
side
an Iron Man.
character. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And I think he doesn't get enough.
He kind of looks like one of my old college professors.
Yeah, does he?
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. All
Well,
right.
as you probably figured, I think I have to give this one to Star Trek, even though I feel like The Force Awakens has a very strong start. Because like the way they bring on Kylo and how we get the new score for the Kylo theme.
Mhm.
That is, and the friggin' how he stops the blaster bolt.
Mhm.
That is a friggin' awesome moment. I just can't shake how friggin' awesome Chris Hemsworth is in the opening of Star Trek. So this is going to Star Trek.
Wow. Right away. Star Trek. There we go. Okay. What about you, Brandon?
Damn, I think I gotta go with Star Trek 2 on this one. Like that whole sequence, like you jump right into it. It happens so fast. Similarly to like the opening of The Last Jedi, where you have like that whole sequence of Paige Tico sacrificing herself. It's like you don't know this character. This movie just started, but you're immediately invested. And I think you feel the exact same thing here with Chris Hemsworth playing Kirk's father. It's just you right out of the gate, super emotional. Star Wars, it's awesome. You get introduced to Kylo Ren right away. Like you said, he stops the blaster bolt dead in his tracks. It's something we've never seen before. It was awesome. But I mean, that alone isn't enough to carry it to a victory here, in my opinion. So I got to go with Trek as well.
All right. Wow. Here we go. Jeremiah Morris, I know in the chat, he's not saying anything yet, but I know he's ready to break some monitors already because he's a big Star Wars. I will say it's interesting too. I do love, like everybody mentioned the blaster bolt. That's great. I love this. I love Kylo Ren's theme. As it comes down, you get that new theme going on. I like the aspect you get. Finn, you get to see the stormtrooper who is questioning himself.
We didn't mention Finn.
And there's some great moments in there. The sequence where they slaughter the village. It sets up this great villainy of the First Order. These are if you didn't know there's bad guys, these are definitely the bad guys. There's a lot to
Lord
love.
Santeca as well. We didn't mention
him.
him.
Love Lord Santeca.
And when he mentions Leia, that is like a goosebump moment. Like you don't see Leia, but like immediately you're like brought in with the old. Like you're like, this is gonna be a great ride.
She's always been royalty to me, and it's so true. It's the great Carrie Fisher, great Leia, and you have the droid sequence. You have BB-8. It's a good introduction to him as well. I mean, kind of like you want to see R2, but BB-8's pretty cool too. All of a sudden, so I want to.
BB's awesome.
He is, and he does a good job. It's a great battle sequence there on the floor. But again, there's also Star Trek where it's a much more epic opening battle sequence. This is much more hell breaking loose. This is not as so. Star Wars doesn't have the quite as epic opening. It's almost like and the two versions. I mean, obviously, Star Trek 2009 and The Force Awakens are both JJ Abrams kind of re-entry, kind of revitalizing sagas that have been dormant for a little while. Force Awakens chose we're going to ease in and let's just kind of like ease in like warm slippers on a cold night and get your feet in there to walk in. Whereas Star Trek's like, no, fuck this, we're going all in. You're gonna push you in the face. We're gonna kill off Kirk's father. We're gonna have some mass blood destruction. All of a sudden, even before you even realize it, even before you understand what's going on, that history is being changed. If you're not a huge Star Trek fan, you're not I know all the history. Like, wait, hey, Kirk's father's dead, and all this stuff is changing. It's like, holy shit. So it depends on which one you want to see. I'm going to give it to Star Trek 2009 as well, because it was such a shock to the system seeing it, and you automatically have that emotional moment. I was almost tearing up when you have Chris Hemsworth sacrifice himself at that point. You're kind of like, holy shit, here we are, like 5 minutes into the movie. I'm like, I'm all in. What happened? Force Awakens, I'm like, yes, I'm so happy. I'm so got goosebumps. I'm still on the edge of my seat, but it's a different kind of edge of the seat. And they both work for what they're trying to do.
They do. And when Chris Hemsworth hears the cry of his son, like before he hears him, that is a tear up moment for me.
And I love that line. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, it's I just wanted to say, and like both sequences actually have characters sacrificing themselves for the greater good with George Kirk and Lord Santeca.
Right.
And Kirk's death is just way more impactful, in my opinion, than Lord Santeca's death is.
Well, it helps that even though you don't know George Kirk as well, he's a Kirk. So you kind of know the lineage. You already tug your heartstring. Lawrence Lanteca, I actually love the character and would love to get some more fiction on him. I'd love to read stories about him and find out more about his history, because obviously he traveled with Luke at one point. He knows Leia, obviously. So some great history there, I'm sure. But we don't know him as well. So it's kind of like when he died, it's kind of like, that's quick that Lawrence, I forgot his name. Who's his name? What the actor? I can't remember the actor's name now. Max von Sydow. Max von Sydow's in there. He's out. He's in and out in 5 minutes. So it's like, I kind of want to see more of him. So I have to say, Kirk gives you a little bit more of that heartstring. So that's another reason why I'm leaning towards Star Trek. So works well for me. So there we are. Wow, there we are. I'm slowing down a little bit, taking a deep breath. There we are.
We all picked Star Wars, and right away, all three of us like Star Trek. Yeah.
Hey, come on now.
We're all going to end up looking dumb at the end of this, aren't we?
Welcome to the class action. Kirk's death is better, but Kylo's "You're so right." Right, that is true. That's a great line delivery by Adam Driver. Yeah. So, right. But yeah, we know, Jeremiah. We know you always disagree. That's okay. All right. Anybody else has any moments in the chat that they want to throw in there? I will throw them up as we get into our next category. Our next category being the better big three. I guess we can list who our big three was when we were talking about it and see how that changes for you. Jarvi, why don't you go ahead and start first?
I think I started last time.
You did. You're right.
Or Brandon.
I'll let Brandon start first.
Sure. So my big three for Star Trek, I think, would be what you originally had planned out, Paul. Kirk, Bones, and Spock. I think that's it for me. Uhura is really important, but I mean, we also have, of course, Chekhov and Scotty, and of course Sulu. Like it's so hard to narrow it down to a three, but for me those are the three, because Kirk is obviously the main man, and those are really his two best friends at the end of the day. And then of course you got Rey, Finn, and Poe in Star Wars. I think I gotta give it to Trek again.
Wow.
Just because I think you really see their friendships develop way more like thoroughly in Star Trek than you do with the big three in The Force Awakens. Like you really see like when Bones and Kirk first meet, and Bones is like really nervous about flying, and he's cracking all these jokes, and he's talking about his ex-wife, which is of course like how he gets the name Bones. She took everything but my bones, and all that stuff, and like trying to sneak Kirk onto the Enterprise to begin with, and like the comedy that goes along with that, and then them two getting to know each other and like forced almost immediately to become really good friends based on the circumstances. And then of course Kirk's relationship with Spock and how they really don't like each other, but they have to learn to like each other. And then you see these character arcs, and they learn to respect one another as Starfleet officers, and eventually Kirk becoming captain and Spock being okay with that. There's so many different dynamics, and I love Rey, I love Finn, I love Poe. Their stories individually are so great. I mean, especially when you look at Finn, like we've never seen anything like that, a stormtrooper turned good. But like at the end of the day, like Poe and Finn is a great relationship, Rey and Finn is a great relationship. It's like, but I just don't really see any character development through their friendship the way you do see it in Star Trek, because there is a clear trajectory of where these characters start out in the beginning of the movie and where they finish that I think is just not as fleshed out in The Force Awakens, if that makes sense.
It does. And Jeremiah actually agreeing with you. It's sad. Wow. Okay. All right. I'll take that. So that's another one for Star Trek 2009. And it's almost unfair. I did go Kirk, Spock, and Bones. That was my pick too, versus Rey, Finn, and Poe. It seems to me like when I went to this, it's almost unfair. A little peek behind the curtain. We were deciding between better big three. The other category we actually ixnayed and canceled out was better mentor characters. That's when I kind of want to go, which would have been maybe Pike versus Pike and old Spock versus maybe Han and Leia. Because to me, the big three of Star Trek almost has a distinct advantage in that we know Kirk, Spock, and Bones. These characters now, granted, it's new iterations of them, but we do have that legacy inherent in that This is James T. Kirk, one of the most legendary characters of all time. Spock, legendary character. Bones, legendary character. Their threesome, legendary threesome. Ray, Finn, and Poe are all new characters. There's actually, I mean, Star Wars had their big three. If you want to talk big three of all time, franchise versus franchise, you're going to put Leia and Han in against Kirk, Spock, and Bones. And that's almost a better battle to me. Ray, Finn, and Poe don't quite match up for exactly those same reasons. Even at the end of the trilogy, and I love the sequels, but Ray, Finn, and Poe didn't get a whole lot of time together. All overall, like, it was hard for them to be a big three. They did, Brandon, you put it best, and they had some great individual arcs, and they had some great individual moments together. But the flow of Star Trek was actually much easier to take in. But that's partially because we're already invested. We're already invested, right? So it's a cheap way to say it. I give it to Star Trek. I don't want to say it's an unfair category. So, but I'll give Star Trek the win because that's what we're doing here. So I gotta say, I love Ray. I love Finn's story. Finn's story is one of the best parts about the sequel trilogy in terms of getting to see that stormtrooper turning to the good side, or not being a bad guy, so to speak, anymore. Poe, I love the best pilot. One of the other, well, it can't be best pilot in the galaxy when you got Han Solo around.
Best pilot in the Resistance.
Best pilot in the Resistance. That will go with. But you're right. I love the moments in Kirk and Spock. Like the idea when Kirk and old Spock meet, and that's when the friendship between Kirk and Spock really starts. It's like that flickering flame. Like, whoa. So I become friends with this guy, and it's like this whole an avalanche of how this whole threesome just comes together as a unit. So I'm gonna go with Star Trek as well.
I can't believe what I'm hearing. I was so sure that Paul was going to go with Star Wars.
You're going down a path I can't follow.
We can just scrap the episode and talk Revenge of the Sith, right?
Yes, please.
We'll definitely have Brandon on for Revenge of the Sith episode at some point. Absolutely. Go ahead, Jarvi. What's your take on the big?
Yeah. You said an interesting thing, like Poe and Finn, meeting each other. It sort of feels like they get along way too fast, like way too quick, like way too well. So they sort of almost have this moment like, did we just become best friends? Yep. So they're like immediately on board. Just like you said, with Star Trek, and you said Spock and sorry, I lost my train of thought. Wow, Kirk and Spock not getting along at all, because we know that they should get along. But okay, now I'm getting into the. Sorry, gotta gather my thoughts here. But I'm going with Star Trek as well. Even though I would say that Ray, Finn, and Poe, I feel like the strongest part of the Star Wars, like the sequel trilogy, is Ray, Finn, and Poe. Like these characters, they are by far the best thing that comes out of the Disney sequels. But, dude, I'm totally losing my train of thought here. I can't believe that I'm picking Star Trek and I'm trying to think of ways to defend Star Wars. But, you said that they break them up like way too many times. Like Ray, Finn, and Poe, they don't really go on adventures way too much together. They're broken up. They go into their separate adventures with Kirk, Spock, and I'm going to go with Bones as well, because Uhura, I said Uhura at first, but Uhura gets a more larger role in the third and second one, I feel like.
Yeah.
They are all together for the most parts. And I can't stress enough how freaking awesome Pine and Quinto, like the actor chemistry together. I feel like they're one of the more underrated duos, like, in movies. They are so, like, Nimoy and Shatner. Not my day today.
Not Ed Harris.
It feels like they're like unmatched combo. But Pine and Quinto, I was watching. When I finished 09, I immediately watched Star Trek Into Darkness as well, and their relationship, their chemistry together is out of this world. I wouldn't go as far, like Quinto especially, I feel like has it locked down to a T, like the Spock character. I wouldn't go as far to say that he's better than Nimoy. There's no way. But like Quinto Spock he went like more. I want to say he went full retard in a way that he went full. Like I'm sorry, I'm just saying Robert Downey Jr. what he said. Yeah, he went like full, like this.
method.
like very like full into the like Nimoy shows way more emotion. Like Quinto, he's like full mathematician, very like sort of robot like. So in that way, I even think that Quinto is in some ways better, but when Nimoy shows up, he's gone through way more than Quinto Spock is. So you can see where the emotionality comes from him.
Gotcha. I will say, I will say real quick that Finn and Poe had that potential, I think, to have that same kind of bromance kind of things. They showed a lot of that. The scene when they got he got his jacket, and they reunite.
He bites his lip.
Right, but the lip bite. I love the lip bite, right? That could have been exactly what you're talking about, but the reason why is that they didn't get enough time together overall. It was just too much separated time because it was more Ray and Finn. So I agree with what you're saying there. So
yeah, overall, I feel like the friendships in the sequel trilogy, it's too easy. It's too one note. They're like you said, they immediately kick off. They're like, oh, did we just become best friends? Yep. There's like a little bit of like Ray maybe not trusting Finn at first, but it's only for a brief moment, really. And then once he says he's part of the resistance, she's on board. The friendships in Star Trek, they just feel more earned because we see them struggle, which ultimately I think that just makes them the better trio, the more entertaining trio to watch on screen. I think because it's earned.
Right, and that's what it is. That's true.
Yeah. That was a tough category for me to get through. I don't know why I lost my train of thought like so many times.
Wow. All right. So we are going on. I think if we get more of Finn and Poe, we could change it for most of the movie. They never see each other, and Ray and Poe never meet until the end of Last Jedi. That's true. It's very true.
They do meet in the Force Awakens novelization, but then that becomes no longer canon when they meet for the first time in The Last Jedi.
Get it together, story group. Get it together. Somebody gets really mad. There are people who got really mad about that. Really mad, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's okay, people. It's okay. All right, let's move on then. Wow, this is this is a kind of surprise. Is what we're saying. This is exactly what we're saying about a snap judgment and how this goes. But without further ado, let's just move on. See what happens next. The better villain category.
Better villain. Yes.
Nero versus Kylo Ren and Snoke and Hux. And I will take this to start. To me, this is an easy one. We're breaking our streak right here. I'm giving this a Star Wars hands down. I think Nero is a good villain, a solid villain, because he is not your typical villain. He's this real like blue collar type character. You realize later on, you find out he's not a warrior. He's not a guy who's commanding an armada. He's commanding a drilling.
He's a miner.
He's a miner, and he's just trying to fight back. And so he has no military tactics. He has it's all about like he's got the big brunt. He has the big weapon. He's going to use it and he's going to go with it. And he's passionate. He's very passionate. So he is a good villain in ways, and he's good because that makes him a unique villain. I like that aspect of it. But Kylo Ren is a phenomenal character. You get right away. This is not a big spoiler at this point. Like halfway through Force Awakens, you find out he's Han Solo's son, and he's already turned to the dark side, which is so interesting to me that they started that way. When you initially went into like blind into the Force Awakens aspect, you're like, wow, they're starting off with Han Solo's son already into the dark side, away from everybody. We don't get to see that. We don't get to see that descent. It already happened. But then you have to realize that he's not exactly committed yet. There's definitely moments throughout the movie where it could turn either way. He has moments right until the end where you almost feel like Han Solo could be getting through to him. Of course, he doesn't, and that makes it even more tragic. But it's great, and the whole sequence at the end there with him and Rey's relationship throughout the whole movie, which of course leads on to more during the other sequels, is it's fascinating to watch. Getting to see those two characters mentally going back and forth with each other, the obsession he has with her, it's a very powerful thing, and the battles you have because at the end of the day, Nero doesn't do much. Nero doesn't do much. He's just more of a talker. He has like scenes where he comes on screen and he's like, I'm going to kick it. Blah, 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 I hate this. And he gets physically involved towards it, but Kylo is in it the whole time. And Kylo is doing the dirty work. He is going down to Jakku. He slices through Lord Santeca. He's, the whole thing. So I kind of feel like you're more involved in his story. Nero, he's the bad guy. He's going to go down at the end. You figure that out, obviously, pretty quickly. And it's just a matter of how. With Kylo, you want more. You get more, and you get to see more. And you want to see more of what's going on behind the scenes. So I'm going to give this one. First one, I'm going to see Star Wars. Force Awakens.
Deservedly so.
Jarvi, for you. Go ahead.
Yeah. I promise this will be better.
Real quick, any villain's lightsaber is better than
I'm
the villain of that.
I'm going with Kylo as well. I'll say that from the start. You said it's an interesting thing about Nero. He's almost displayed to us as like an anti-hero because he lost his own planet. He's like feeling distraught. Like I couldn't shake the feeling that he's like they try to explain like he's avenging his home planet, but Spock was trying to save it. Like he did everything in his power to try to save it, and he's still like, no, I'm gonna like kill an entire planet and make you watch. He tried to save your home. Like I couldn't shake the feeling that needed to be something more, that he didn't know that Spock was trying to save his own planet, but he didn't know everything. So that was kind of like a chink in the story there for me. With Kylo Ren, dude, like even if it's like the weakest Kylo that we see, because there's a lot of talk of him being very whiny and sort of, you know, kind of bratty, you know, destroying the wall when he's like upset and stuff like that. But even though like Adam Driver is, I talked about the big three before, like he definitely needs to be in that discussion, that he's also like one of the best things that happened in the Disney trilogy. And okay, are we talking spoilers or we're not? You know, I want to talk about the big moment on the bridge.
The movies are old enough. We can talk about spoilers, I think, at this point. If you haven't seen the movies, well, tough luck, I guess.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jarvi.
When he takes the mask off, a lot of people weren't a fan of like how he looked and what his character was about. I thought that was like the best moment in the entire movie, and he's back and forth with Harrison Ford. His struggle and how he killed him, it was like such a perfect introduction and sort of vilification of his character. I can't praise him enough.
Okay, I agree. I don't disagree with you. I mean, Adam Driver is better than Eric Bana, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
just in general, I would think he's a better actor. Not on a slate against Eric Bana, but I think that Adam Driver is just phenomenal. He's one of my current favorite actors. So,
why do you hate Bana?
I don't hate Bana. I just haven't.
I
don't hate him. To be honest, I'm not a huge fan. I'm not a huge fan of him. There's not many movies I can say Eric Bana is awesome.
Troy,
he's okay.
Hector,
Troy. He's
awesome.
Okay as the Hulk, Incredible, and his Hulk. I mean, he's okay. He's good. He's solid. He's just not somebody I'm not gonna. I'll go see an Adam Driver movie for Adam Driver.
That's true.
I'm not gonna go out to see Eric Bana. If he's in the movie, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna turn away from it. But I'm not letting nothing. That doesn't move the needle for me anyway, as far as being excited about a project. That makes sense. But off Eric Bana, well, kind of. Go ahead, Brandon. Why do you hate Eric Bana?
I hate that guy so no. I gotta go with Star Wars here as well. I mean, I'm literally looking off screen at a Kylo Ren lightsaber that I just have sitting in the corner of my room. I used to have a voice changing mask, but I lost it when I moved last year, which is a huge bummer. But yeah, I mean, Nero, he has a motivation that like maybe it's not painted super clear, but at least like on the surface you understand why he's the villain, I suppose. Like, but other than his understandable motivation, he's kind of just like a mustache twirling villain that is simply there to get our heroes together, get the Star Trek crew together that we know and love from the original series. Like, he is just something that's there for the movie to even exist at all, but like that's all he's there for. So like other than that, like Kylo Ren on the other hand, like Adam Driver, probably one of, if not the best actor to ever appear like on screen in a Star Wars film, in my opinion. And honestly, the most compelling villain in all of Star Wars. Also, if you ask me, I think he's the most compelling villain, and so much of it has to do with the way that Adam Driver portrays the character, particularly in The Last Jedi for me. But I know this is Force Awakens talk, so I'm going to try to stick to Force Awakens. But I mean, he's so ingrained in the plot of the story. Like, he's Han Solo's son. It's just as much his story as it is Ray, Finn, and Ray. Oh my God, I'm mixing my P's and my F's here. Ray, Finn, and Poe is just as much his story as it is theirs. So it's not just as much Nero's story as it is Kirk, Spock, Uhura, Bones, all them. So yeah, it's Kylo Ren like pretty definitively.
Fair enough. I agree. So there we go. Finally, we're coming back a little bit. We're having a little bit of action. It's a little more of a battle now. Let's see what we can do with the next category. This is better score. You got Michael Giacchino versus John Williams.
I wonder what's happening here.
This is where like friends become enemies, perhaps. I don't know.
Really?
Okay.
Go
ahead, Jarvi.
I feel like Brandon's gonna want to take this one first.
No.
Okay.
Let Jarvi go first. I will say, Brandon, in case you haven't seen this, and Chad hasn't seen this, Jarvi and I have another Jarvi hot take. We have this whole thing where I have John Williams almost over everybody, and he always brings up Hans Zimmer, who I love.
Hans is my goat. Yeah,
Hans is go-to. So we always have his little Williams versus Zimmer battles. So we're going to find out about this. So I want to hear what you guys have to say. Go ahead, Jarvi.
I do like Michael Giacchino's score. How he brought back the original score and how he gave it way more gravitas and sort of like these deeper sort of sounds. And I listened through the entire album as well, because like the first theme is like the one you go to, but with The Force Awakens we got like the main theme, but there's so many new themes in there that John Williams introduced. So I really want to get into Giacchino because I feel like he's one of the better like new age sort of working composers that we have. And there's a lot of new stuff in there that, you know, when you watch the movie, it just sort of ties into the story you don't really pay attention to. There's so much there. He does a great job, but John Williams, Rey theme, Kylo theme. He just like there's no Star Wars movie where that is composed by John Williams where he doesn't bring in the new and tie in with the old. Like I'd say Rey's theme is as good as any of the other themes in there, and the Imperial March and Kylo theme is there. You can't pick which one is better. This one is easily to Star Wars. Almost says to the Star Wars.
To the Star Wars.
To the Star Wars.
Okay. I'm actually going to take this next, if you don't mind, Brandon. What I'm going to say about this is that I listened to the Star Trek 09 score, and when I first initially made this a couple weeks ago, I was starting to worry about what categories we were going to do. I had a hard time putting this in because I was like, damn, this is easily Star Wars. It's fucking John Williams, and it's a Star Wars score. How can you go wrong? How can anybody ever compete against it? I listened to Star Trek. I watched Star Trek 2009, and I picked up the score for the first time in a long time. And I was amazed at how good it was. Mm-hmm. I never really realized it before, but I love the newer themes he created. He did weave in the old theme at the end, especially he did that the Creed thing, where he didn't give you the real theme until the very end moment. Like the end of the day, all of a sudden the Star Trek theme actually comes in, and it just was so effective how it was handled. I do think that this might sound controversial. John Williams did. There's a lot of reliance on old cuts in The Force Awakens. There's some older material that is used a lot, but then again, why wouldn't you use it? Because it's great for a reason. But he did also create great themes. Rey's theme has lasted beyond anything that Star Trek 2009 has had to offer, in my mind. Star Trek might be a newer score in general, but the new pieces that John Williams used remind you of why he is such a genius. I think John Williams has actually gotten better sometimes. I think like Revenge of the Sith was one of his best scores of all time, and he's gotten even better. It's like he's not relying necessarily on the past. He just has that base to use. When you have that base, it makes it so enjoyable when you base it on something so good and just modernize it a little bit. And you add a little bit with the new themes, it becomes a perfect setup. So I was justified in saying that Star Wars was going to win, but I will say that it was a lot closer than I had given it because Michael Giacchino is a wonderful composer. I actually hope he does, now that John Williams is retiring from Star Wars, I hope Michael Giacchino does do another one because
he did Rogue One, right?
He did Rogue One, but he did it in like 3 weeks. Like he was given 3 weeks to do it. Like he came through, and Rogue One is actually still a pretty good score considering he had 3 weeks to do it. It's actually kind of underrated. I think there's some great moments, and there's some things I'm not a huge fan of what he did for that. But overall, I'd love to see him get another chance as a full-on composer for a Star Wars piece because it's a great piece. It's a great piece of music, and he did a great job. I will also say about Star Trek '09, some of the best pieces of '09 that I heard actually reminded me of Star Wars, which, and I'll say it here, it's kind of funny to me. I think one of the reasons Star Trek '09 reached a new audience is because JJ Abrams definitely did make it more like Star Wars. He took Star Trek '09 and kind of added a lot of Star Wars flair to it.
He even added R2 in there.
R2. I mean, let's face it. Yeah, it's like, what story is this? It's an orphan boy who gets spurred on by an older mentor character to join up in this fight against a planet killer. It's like, which film are we watching here? I don't know. Is it New Hope? There's a little bit of that.
Yeah,
so
damn, how many times has JJ on Planet Killers?
Jesus, JJ. So
God damn.
But
surprised there was a one in Super 8.
Yeah.
There should have been. Maybe that's why I didn't do as well. I love Super 8 though, actually. Take that aside. I love Super 8. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna go with Star Wars again, but it's a lot closer than I initially gave it credit for. So Brendan, what do you have to say about it?
Yeah, I mean, the Star Trek '09 theme, all of that, the whole score is really great. Like, there's a new Star Trek theme that Giacchino did that is really like, I mean, you hear it now and it's like, boom, that is Star Trek, like 100%. But he also integrated the old television show theme, like you said, which was really awesome because that's not something we've ever heard in the movies, because Jerry Goldsmith always did a different theme for the films that he composed, and James Horner did a different theme for the films that he composed. Mm-hmm. And there's like a little bit of this and that, and some of the other films like Dennis McCarthy and a few other people did like their own little spin on it. But this one, yeah, it really was like, Star Trek is back, and it's such a great score. But I mean, how can you go against John Williams? And like, it's not just like the greatest hits that we know and love from Star Wars, mm-hmm. but like you said, like he finds new ways to give us new and interesting themes. Like, I mean, Rey's theme is just so good, and like I've listened to both these scores while driving in my car, but the amount of times I listen to the Force Awakens score in my car compared to Star Trek '09, it's like 100 to 1. It's like, I can't tell you how many times I've listened to the Jedi Steps in the finale. The fact that I can even name tracks on the soundtrack tell mm-hmm. you right away that that's the one that should win. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer, really, but I mean, you can't discount that Star Trek '09 score at all. It's
Agreed.
Great.
When you're putting up against a giant legend like John Williams, it's hard to compare, but it is against almost anybody else. I think it could definitely have a chance of beating anybody else almost. And I will say, the Jedi Steps actually was my alarm for a long time. I like to ease myself into. Into Awakening. I'd give myself 10 minutes to kind of all of a sudden by the time I woke up, it was like full out in there. I'm like,
did you start to resent the score because of it? Because it woke you up? Because that's what I realized when I use songs that I like. No, this is actually true. Because you usually don't. You don't want to wake up when you're sleepy, right? So when you're hearing your favorite song wake you up, you sort of. I did that like a while ago, and I started to resent that song.
There are songs that have done that. Yes, I have done that, but for whatever, and that even says even more. I still have yet to resent. I still think it's a great piece to wake up to. I still love it, and I still will use it anytime. Sorry, great to see you, Sadi, out there. They don't get to see you very often. What is this? Are you actually trying to start a fight between the fandoms? Yes, we are. That's what we do. But okay, so here we are.
Would you say before we move on from John Williams, I was thinking about like he's not only the, I'll just say this, the GOAT of movie composers, but you could say he's like the greatest composer of our time, period. Like not just movies.
I think so.
Right?
It's hard
the Mozart
to
of our
that.
time.
I would argue that. I would argue for that.
Hard.
Absolutely. It'd be easy to argue. So
right.
You'd argue for it, I'm saying. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I gave you that for Hans Zimmer now, Paul. Remember that.
I did. I'll write that down for you. Write it down for later on. I'm also going to clip it out for later on. So every time you say anything, just clip that a little bit. But yeah, okay. All right. So we've reached category 5. We are at better tie-ins with the original IP.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Tough one.
This is a very tough one. I guess
I can take this one.
You take a start? Go ahead. Why don't you start?
This is because I fought for this category.
You did.
And very different approaches with these two. Now, Star Wars, like we said before, relies heavily on nostalgia. There's, I don't know if the movies would have been what they were, they wouldn't have attracted the audience if we hadn't brought in like the Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and Carrie Fisher. And with Star Trek, we had no idea what that was actually going to be. We're like, okay, this is a remake, right? Feels like a remake. During the movie, we find out that it's actually a reboot/sequel. Now that is like, at that time, they didn't do a lot of time travel stuff. And I think it's freaking ingenious what the writers did. I think it's Alex Kurtzman and Orsi who wrote it. Now they're sort of not loud as much, but I feel like but with this with this story, like how they weaved in the old and the new is, I don't know, like I do love in Star Wars that they brought in the older characters, like the OG characters, but it felt like the story was sort of made to complement them being in there. But with Star Trek, we had a built into the story a reason to bring back Leonard Nimoy. And I almost like the fact that they only brought him back and not, Shatner and who played Sulu.
You mean Bones or
Sulu?
Sulu. I'm dying here.
I shouldn't have brought that up. Well, you pretty much know what I mean. That they gave us just enough of the old without forcing too many of the OG characters in there. I gotta give this to Star Trek for that reason. I feel like the writing, it's the writing that makes me decide for that. Even though if I had to pick characters, I would pick the Star Wars OG characters in a heartbeat. But I feel it's such an ingenious way how they tied in the old and the new, and it's being it pretty much is a remake, reboot, sequel. There's no way to categorize it, and it works. George Takei.
There you go. Yeah. And Super Chat Ferris. Hello, thank you.
Ferris, thank you.
For the record, I knew George Takei. I just zoned out at that moment.
I know.
I think we're all kind of tired because for two of us it's a little late, and for one of us it's a little early. So
it's very true. That's what it is. Don't judge us here, folks. Don't judge us.
Of course, I know George Takei.
Oh my!
Is it Takei or Takei?
Everyone knows that.
Exactly. Everyone knows that. We definitely knew that.
You want to see the chat knew that.
John Cho is Sulu, by the way.
John Cho.
Love it.
It is. Good. He is great. He's
awesome.
So
great. Really is.
And like they took something. That's another thing too about like I like watching Star Trek 09 again after going back and watching all the originals a few times. You really picked up. There's so many like small little things that they pay tribute to, not just the original films, but the original series as well. They took something that was like kind of a joke in the original series about Sulu being a fencer, like fencing.
That's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah. And like they make him badass with it in this movie. So it's like that, like there's a lot of attention to detail in Star Trek 09. Like they really, you could tell, like as much as like there's so many Star Trek purists that don't like this movie, but like I feel like they're crazy for not seeing that the writers of this film and JJ himself directing, like these guys were Star Trek super fans to me. It seems because like they really paid attention to detail. What they're maybe doing now with like, you know, all the TV series that I don't know. I'm not going to get into all that. But I think in this movie, like they did a really good job with that.
I do
for sure.
All right. So go ahead, Brian. Since you started, why don't you keep going with your better tie-ins? Are you giving it to Star Trek, or you?
I don't know. Like I keep going back and forth in my head, honestly, because like I just like I said, like just small details like that, and there's like so many other like ones, like one-off lines, like referencing like I was assigned to the USS Farragut is like another ship that's like mentioned as like one line in one of the other movies, like and man, like Jarvi makes really great points with like the writing and how like there's such a good reason to bring Spock in, but like aside from Spock being the catalyst for this new timeline, like these characters kind of like stand out on their own from the original films, whereas like The Force Awakens is more of a continuation of the original story, and like it ties in to the plot of the original trilogy and the prequels more, I would say, than this movie ties into the original films, the original series. So I'm gonna go Star Wars.
You can go Star Wars. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Makes
go
sense.
Star
You
Wars.
surprised me there.
Okay. Well,
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I think
I
you had good
surprised me
points.
too.
I will say that Jarvi does bring up a lot of great points, and I do agree that I love how they rebooted it. How they rebooted it. They brought in they use the time travel thing where they actually made it into a sequel instead of just a reboot. I thought was actually very well done. I did like that. But Star Wars definitely, when he says it relies on nostalgia, it doesn't just rely on nostalgia. It still feels like Star Wars. I said it before during the score and everything else that Star Trek, this felt more like Star Wars than any previous Star Trek had. They injected, JJ Abrams has always said he was a bigger Star Wars fan than a Star Trek fan. He likes Star Trek, but Star Wars was always his love. But this felt more like a space fantasy adventure than it did the hard science fiction that Star Trek had always been. So if you're talking about tie-ins to the original, this almost seemed like a reboot and a remake and a course correction might be the wrong word. So not that Star Trek was wrong, but they are changing course a little bit to kind of maybe to get to a different audience. Whereas Star Wars stayed very true to itself. It was very much a continuation. It's almost a soft reboot to a degree of the original Star Wars as well. It gave into those nostalgic feels. It gave you those archetype characters. It gave you that music. That's the same type of thing. You have the lightsaber. You have those tie-ins to the previous films that are there. You're waiting. When Han Solo comes in, when you see Spock for the first time in Star Trek, it's great. When Han Solo comes in and that door opens and he comes in, Chewie.
Yeah, we're home.
We're home. Tears, man tears, all over the place. Not even a single man tear. I was like, I had many.
And even though we'd seen it in the trailer, it still worked.
It worked. It still worked completely. You have this search for Luke as this whole character. You want to see Luke the entire time. And I even thought, and at one point, I know JJ Abrams said that initially at the end they were going to have Luke catch the lightsaber instead of Rey catching the lightsaber.
They should have. This is my biggest problem.
I know you did. I actually agree with what they did because they had to make Rey. If you give it to Luke, it becomes a Luke movie. Whereas you need to use this to give Rey her due and give her the central moment of the film.
Yeah, I also like the subverting of the expectations, where I think everyone wanted it to be Luke, but it's Rey, and it's she had the power to defeat Kylo Ren all along. She doesn't need Luke, and not in an over the top way, but in an earnest way that I believe.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you entirely, Brendan, on that. To be honest with you, I was one of the people who did. I exactly thought it was going to be Luke, and if I was disappointed, like Jarvi, at the moment it happened, I was like, oh, that would have been cool. But as it sat with me, I was like, it needed to have that, otherwise it becomes about Luke. And introducing Luke like it did at the end brought the whole thing together for me, and the whole music swelling and everything else.
I just enjoy being surprised too, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't want to see what I'm expecting to see. That was a problem that I had with the Rise of Skywalker, is everything I expected to happen happened.
Right. You're not wrong. At the end of the day.
I like being surprised.
And that was a surprise moment, and that's some great sequences. And that battle at the end there, it felt like a Star Wars battle. And I like the fact that another thing I'll throw in there, their fight, Kylo and Rey's lightsaber battle, was not a pretty battle. It shouldn't have been. Nope. The prequels, you had the Jedi and the Sith who've been training for years, and it's a choreographed dance, and that's what that should have been. This was dirty, gritty, angry.
Lots of poking moves.
Right. Kylo Ren is literally bleeding to death. Rey, she's defended herself on Jakku with her staff, but she has no formal fight training.
Right.
And she has the Force flowing through her, obviously, hence the title of the movie, The Force Awakens. And it's guiding her. But Kylo Ren.
It's raw.
Kylo Ren was trained by Luke Skywalker and Snoke. Mm-hmm. So if he wasn't bleeding to death, he would have won pretty easily.
Absolutely. That's
what he was literally shot with a crossbow that literally launched people when it hit them. Launched stormtroopers through the air and broke off pieces of their armor when it hit them. They took that thing to the gut.
Right. They sent that. They sent that the whole film building it up. And multiple times you see this crossbow whipping people's ass, and then when Chewbacca hits him and he comes up and still fighting and winning. to a degree until the very end. So
I got a question though. Kylo keeps like when he's shot, he keeps like hitting like when you're bleeding. Does this help stop the bleeding? What is that thing
No,
he's doing?
I think maybe the
yourself?
pain fuels his dark side abilities, perhaps, and it motivates him.
That could be.
Feels like a
that would
reach,
be
but
my
I'll
guess.
take it.
I like
That'd be
it.
my guess.
I like that actually. I think that
Like Darth Vader was always constantly in pain and very uncomfortable. His suit was purposely not comfortable to live in, but it made him stronger in the dark side of the Force, experiencing that. So
I like that too. That's true. Well,
that's going to be cut into like the novels and comics and stuff. But,
yeah, well, we can sit here and talk all day about that. I know I could too. But at the end of the day, I guess I got to give my final. I got to give it to Star Wars. I got to give it to Star Wars because I do like what Trek did. But at the end of the day, Star Wars felt more like Star Wars than Star Trek felt like Star Trek to me in a way. And it's not to say that Star Trek not feeling exactly like Star Trek was bad. It worked. It worked. And it was great. I'd love to see another film with that cast though. I think that cast is a magical cast for Star Trek.
But for me, when you're talking about a tie-in, it's hard to beat a continuation of the same story where like Star Trek started a new story with an old character. So like it's cool to see that the old Spock is kind of a part of this new journey in some way. But it's these new characters are on their own journey completely. Whereas like in Star Wars, the new characters, the new big three and all them, they're still facing the repercussions of the decisions made by the characters that we've known and loved in the past.
Absolutely. Well, my friends, we are done. We have finished our categories. I'm tabulating it up.
I've lost count, so
good.
I have no idea who's going to win.
I know who's going to win, though. I feel like I can like look at Paul's face.
I have no face. There's no face here. There's no face. In the closest of battles, winning 8-7. Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Okay. Wow. That is close, though.
That is really close.
That is close.
So we all thought Star Wars were going to do it, and we were right this time. But I didn't think any of us would have picked how close it would have been, especially after the first two categories. Star Trek was up 6-0.
Yeah.
That's a comeback for the ages. I don't know if anybody else in the chat wants to put off their feelings. Let us know what you have to say. What do you think if we came up with the right thing? If we were way off on anything, I'm sure you'll let us know. You tend to do that, and we love you for it. Brandon, what do you think about our decision here?
It's the decision that I expected. I love how close it was because Star Trek really deserves that level of respect, I think. It's a love that I've discovered later in life through studying for the Schmodown. So I'm really pleased to see it get a lot of credit that it's due. Star Trek 09, I think, is a really, really great film. And it's new, but it honors the old in a way that I really admire, even if some hardcore old school Star Trek fans don't agree. Well, that's just my thoughts on it. So I love it. But yeah, it's so hard to say no to Star Wars. It's just, how do you do it? It's the wars, man.
Wars. I have yet to find a way to say no to the Star Wars. Jeremiah is very happy about that. Alan's really also very happy about that. So, all right. And Jeremiah Morse admitting that 09 is an amazing movie and such a beautiful universe and movie going forward. So that's good that we actually touched him. We've actually touched a Star Wars fan, and he's agreeing to that point. But Jarvi, what do you have to say about our decision? What do you think?
I do. I figured it would go this way. I'm really pleased that it was 8-7. That is a score that I can be at peace with because, like I said before, I feel like 09 work like as a separate movie is better than The Force Awakens, but I just love Star Wars and the IP so much. I think I wanted to ask you, Brandon, what do you think? Would you like to see, like there were rumors about Tarantino doing another Star Trek movie? Would you like to see that happen with the same cast or a completely spin-off movie?
I think it would be interesting. If he did it with the same cast, I don't know if it would fit in with what they've been doing. Maybe if he kind of did like a one-off, maybe like a different era, like different captain. I don't even know. Like maybe they keep it in this new Kelvin timeline, but maybe they jump and we see a new next gen cast, or like, you know, like a new Voyager cast, and he follows those people, you know, in the same timeline, but just further along. I think that could be really interesting. I, for one, have like, because in Star Trek Nemesis, we see, I mean, spoiler alert for Star Trek Nemesis, guys, but you're never going to watch it. But we see Tom Hardy play a clone of Picard. So I think, how cool would it be in one of these movies if we stay in the Kelvin timeline, but jump to the future and we see Tom Hardy playing a Picard in this timeline? I think would be really exciting to see. And maybe if you put Tarantino in charge of something like that, it could be really interesting. We'll see. I'm not like begging for this movie, but if they made it, you bet I'd be there opening night.
Robert Adams, the great. They should cast James McAvoy as a new Picard.
No, yeah, I think he'd actually do a great job. But
probably would.
Be way too distracting.
I love James McAvoy too, though. So
there's one thing that we need to answer though. John Lestrina asked us: Oscar Isaac or Carl Urban, both true stars.
Oh yeah.
We didn't really get into that. Like, what do you think?
Yeah.
I feel like Oscar Isaac is a bigger star now, but Carl Urban has this sort of, you know, this little Paxton quality about him. You're like, he always makes it better. He's always on point.
He's
so good as Bones. He's so
He
good
is
as Bones.
So good as Bones. I would say that Oscar Isaac is probably the better actor. He's a better actor, better performer. If you want to look for a dramatic performance, you're going to go for Oscar Isaac. I think there is a quality to Carl Urban that exactly what you're saying. I love him in The Boys. I love him in. He's got this great role. He's a fun actor.
Yeah, you feel like he'd be fun to go out for a beer with, you know. So Oscar Isaac will be maybe a bit more unapproachable.
And he's like a down to earth character in this science fiction crazy world, and he's almost like if the audience was there, you know.
Exactly.
He's commenting on how ridiculous everything is. Like, we're going into space. You know how dangerous that is. If there's like one crack in the hole, we could all die. What is like? He's just like so pessimistic, but in like a hilarious way.
Yeah, pretty much.
and he's just always like commenting on how like weird Spock is and like all this stuff. And
he calls him pointy. He calls him pointy a lot. I'm like, it kind of feels inappropriate, but you know, coming from him, it's, you know, jokey.
And like literally down to earth, like he's like talking about like how like human beings were never meant to be in space. I don't know what we're doing up here. This is ridiculous. It's like, but I got nowhere else to go.
He's that crotchety guy, even though he's young. He still has that crotchety old man quality to it that you love to see. It though, 'cause it makes you laugh. So,
but he's also really intelligent. He's clearly like the best doctor in all of Starfleet. He's got to be, hands down. You know?
Yeah. So absolutely.
He's as intelligent as he is funny.
Right.
I don't think he took the Hippocratic Oath though, because I'm not sure that you can, you know, give someone. Oh no, actually, it's a vaccine. It's a vaccine.
A vaccine that He was helping. He was still helping. That was actually one of my favorite Carl Urban moments. You get to that point where you almost don't think he would do it, and all of a sudden you see him stop and go, "All right." But, I will say John Lestrina did donate in the Streamlabs. Thank you, John. He gave his thoughts on his own questions. And for the record, I love Carl Urban with Chris Pine, but I think Oscar Isaac has natural chemistry with everyone. Interesting. I don't know. I do like Carl Urban. Like his chemistry with the Boys is really good as well. So I don't know how to see, but I could definitely see that as well. So okay. So that is it. Everybody else is putting in their last things. I did have one other question I saw in here. Really quick.
A super chat question or?
No, regular. There's actually a statement. Jonathan Chong wanted to jump in the end and agree 8-7, but in the defense of 09, it is a reboot technically, but in canon, the comics bridge the TNG to current 09 film. So it's one universe. Haven't read it all yet. Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
That is very interesting.
Well, it's like because like Spock is pretty old, right? So like that version of Spock exists after like we have the Next Generation and all that stuff. Like because obviously like Romulus still exists in Star Trek: The Next Generation, and then it blows up after that period of time. Which I think is interesting. It'd be really cool, like to see how Spock interacts with Starfleet at that point in time. But now we're just getting really nitty gritty into like what we really want to see, like as nerds.
Which
almost too much. I almost feel dirty saying it.
I just wish the cast continues with the movies, because Beyond, I feel like Star Trek Beyond in some ways is the best of the three.
Wow. Okay. I like Beyond.
I love the first one. I like the second one. Beyond, Beyond might be the best.
Yeah.
That's a very hot take. A lot of people don't like Beyond at all. I thought Beyond was great. I think what people didn't like about it almost seemed just like an episode of instead of being something really.
That's why it works.
That's why it worked. Exactly.
I think like Simon Pegg wrote it, right? Yeah. And he, you could tell he really loves and understands the source material, which is something I gave credit to Kurtzman and Orsi for that in the first one, but like in different ways, in different ways. This one is pegged more and appealing to people who are real super fans of the original series, I think.
Yes, we are, Robert. I agree. So either way, there is still hope. I believe there is still hope. It was like ruled out, but then there's been rumors that they are trying to get them back together, possibly. So cross our fingers, we can get a Star Trek cast that's reborn in a new adventure somehow. So I guess that will do it for us. Thank you everybody for watching. Thanks for donating if you did. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for sticking around and hanging out with us. It was a great episode. I had a lot of fun talking Star Trek and Star Wars with these nerds just like me. Brandon, where can the folks find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at BrandonHanna07. You could also find me at youtube.com/BrandonHanna. Please consider subscribing over there. Working on some really cool stuff in the science communication realm of things. So that's something that I'm really passionate about and want to get into. So if that's something that maybe interests you, stop by in maybe the next few weeks. I'm working on something. And also I am working on building my Patreon again. So there you go. Patreon.com/BrandonHanna. Thank you so much. Right now I'm doing weekly live streams. Last week I did a really fun Ask Me Anything. This week I'm talking some Schmodown. So if you want to get not just the Hitman, but Brandon Hanna's opinion on some Schmodown related topics, join me, get your questions ready. It's going to be a lot of fun. One of the few places I feel comfortable speaking a little more openly. Maybe a little less in character, if you will. That's all I'll say. I don't like saying the other word that starts with a K.
We can't say it anymore.
A little too far. Or the one that starts with an H, or the one that starts with an F. If you pick up what I mean,
I do. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
All right, because this is a real list. I'm not. What are you talking about? Like, I really am a hitman after all.
You're leaving afterwards to go do some damage. I hear that's right. Right? You're gonna be
exactly.
Okay.
Of course.
Jarvi, where can the folks find you?
You can find me at Richard Eric with a K Jarvi on Facebook and Instagram, and of course, you can find me here weekly with Paul Dinozio on Action Industries.
That's true. You can find me at Paul_Denuzio on Twitter. You can find me next week, probably back to our normal Saturday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific pre-recorded schedule. We don't actually have a topic yet. We haven't. We got to come up with that afterwards pretty soon because we got to film soon and watch our movies before we do that. But we have some possibilities, a lot of things going on. If anyone ever has any suggestions they would like to see us debate, you can send Jarvi or me DMs or whatever, however you want to get in touch with us. Get in touch with us. We'll try to make it happen if it works. You can also find other things on the Action Industries channel. Action Unfiltered will be on Friday with Ben and Drew. Action Industries also have Film Food on next Saturday night, and that Ben and Drew are talking the Meatball Sub and Point Break. Give me two.
Give me two, Utah.
Utah.
We've had so many suggestions about Fast and the Furious. I feel like we should do it at some point.
I know I want to, and I was kind of sort of waiting. At one point, I was waiting for Fast 9 to come out to do it. Like, we could do Fast and do the whole Fast and Furious around that time. But, like, with COVID and this whole disaster, like, who knows when it's coming out now at this point? I mean, it keeps getting pushed back. So maybe I will do a Fast and Furious topic sooner than later. And then we'll do a Fast and the Furious, a second different topic later on. Because we can do more. We've had how many, like 4 or 5 Star Wars topics. So we can do at least two Fast and Furious if we want to.
Oh no! I just wanted to. I figured we could do Tenet. When is Tenet released? It's not scheduled in the US because
it's opening some places, but not others.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I figured if you could see that, I'm seeing it on Tuesday. We could do maybe Tenet versus Inception or something like that.
Tenet starring Richard Eric Jarvi.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna play Where's Jarvi and find out where he is in Tenet. But
I think Jeremiah is suggesting in the chat Fast and Furious versus Point Break. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, it's Point Break, no doubt, but still, that is a running joke. I do like that, and I actually agree with that. But that might be a good one to say. Oh, look at that! Rob Brown is also seeing Tenet next Monday. I'm in New York, and we have nothing open, so I'm not going to be seeing it. And maybe we shouldn't. Who knows? I don't know. It's going to be a whole tricky thing anyway. But when I do see Tenet, we will definitely be doing a Tenet category, and also
episode.
Yes, that's what I said. I'm trying to say anyway. And finally, also you can find me real quick. You can find me on Call to Action. We're doing Chilled Action's 50th episode and 1 year anniversary tomorrow. Tomorrow night, we're bringing on. If Christian won't reunite Team Action, we're going to reunite Team Action at least for one night. So get the Still Dre ready and your questions, and we'll have some fun with that. And also, PLD Projects has opened up. Doing some stuff on V, one of my favorite sci-fi shows of all time. I will get to the Harrisons. I've been promising it for months. I'm waiting for a few thumbnails from Jake to really solidify it, and then I'll get going on maybe some pre-recorded content where I'll make you like Ed Harris as much as I do, or die trying, go through every movie that Ed Harris has ever been in. And one last thing I will say is potentially tonight, if you're subscribed to PLD Products, I might be doing one of my patented PLD live hangs where people come on and talk about the most random stuff. And I got to admit, last time we had one, I actually had to make it private because it got a little, got a little down.
That's like
that's spicy.
You do know, Brandon. You do know. You had to do that yourself. So that one is no longer available. But you never know. If you're live, you never know what's going to happen. So
you never know.
Never know. So. But thank you again, Brandon, so much for guesting on our show. We really appreciate you coming by.
Thank you so much for having me here. The second you said Star Trek and Star Wars, I was in immediately.
Yeah, that was a perfect match. Thanks for being on.
All right, guys. Thank you in the chat again. And, of course, as always, court is adjourned.